Introducing my next guest, former rifleman, paratrooper, fireman, medals obtained during service, Australian Active Service Medal, Afghanistan Medal, Australian Defence Medal, NATO Defence Medal, and Infantry Combat Badge, and now business and gym owner, Ryan Fox. Mate, welcome to Two Worlds Collide podcast. How are you?
Mate, I'm well. Thanks for having me. Thanks for making the trip up.
Yeah. In Newcastle for episode 7 today. And it's great to see you, mate. The last time I seen you was Townsville, March or May, maybe 2013.
13, wow.
Yep.
There you go. So I thought it would have been 2014, but no, it wouldn't have been. I think I'd trade transferred by then.
Yep.
Yeah, wow. It doesn't seem that long, mate.
I know.
And I think because we've kept in touch.
Yeah, we have. You know, there's obviously been a few months there where we haven't spoken to each other, but over the decade we have, you know, you're one of the guys out of 5 or 6 of my military friends that I have stayed in touch with. You know, which is good, man. You know, keeping these type of relationships from early days, and especially in the military, like we have a bond that other people don't have.
100%.
Because, you know, not only were we in the military together, we also deployed to Afghanistan together in 2012.
Yep.
Which brings us a very good brotherhood bond
You're right.
that can't be replicated in real life, I don't believe.
No, and I'm sure we'll touch on it later anyway, but that's what I've found since leaving the military is that you get that real loss of tribe, I think. And when I get back around military people, and I was fortunate enough when I did get out to work with a lot of military people as well, and I've even had ex-military staff here at the gym. I said to Amy, and I said, we actually had the Defence Force rugby team in here not too long ago.
Yeah, nice.
And as soon as they left, I said to Amy, I said, they're just my people, man.
Yeah.
I said, like, when I'm around them is the only time I feel just normal.
Yeah.
Like, that's my society.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people probably feel that way and don't know why. But
well, especially for me and you, that's where we grew up, and we became men in the army. You know, I joined at the age of 18. When did you join?
Yeah, 19, 20, something like that.
Yeah, so, you know, realistically, we're kids.
Yeah, they're your formative years, mate. Like, they're how you're right. You learn to be a man, you know, through them years. You spend your whole 20s in the military around them type of people. That's the type of person you're going to become, I guess. So.
Yeah. Yeah, look, mate, thanks for jumping on. You are my first military guest, so...
Really?
Yeah.
Am I?
Yep. So I've had, you know, obviously a couple AFL players on, a Brownlow medalist, AFL captain, couple Ironman in Nutri-Grain Ironman, and then also the triathlon side of stuff, and a couple other close friends that are also just different type of people, you know, like... loves running ultra marathons and stuff like that, right? So they're the type of people I have on. But yeah, you're the first military podcast that I've got on.
Well, look, my bro, at least there won't be very big shoes to fill for the next one.
Well, I think after this podcast, some might question that. So, but yeah, man, you know, now business gym owner. You ran me through a pretty brutal session this morning. That I think I did pretty well at.
Mate, you did really well. You did really well. You've always been a fit dude, but you really surprised me this morning when you started out so hard. I thought, geez, he's going to hit the wall. But
I kept it.
Mate, on you went. Credit to you.
Now, did you want to? Let's jump into the gym business.
Yeah.
How did you get into that? Why did you get into that?
Yeah, it's a good question, dude.
Because you've always lived around the gym, right? I sent you a funny meme 6 months ago, or maybe can't remember when, but it was a meme of, you know, someone teaching someone everything I know in the gym, and you taught me everything that I knew in the gym, lifting, you know, correct techniques, and that sort of stuff, how to build muscle, what to eat. So I learned practically all my gym stuff from you.
Yeah, and I learned my army stuff from you. So there you go. You took me under your wing, and I took you under mine. I remember that. That's a good 12, 18 months there.
Yeah, because I think I got to the Bun.
I think what we did. I think it was my first exercise I did. We went on, and you were number 2 on the gun. Yeah, I was on a 58 and lugging that thing through the bush, and you were wiping my ass most of the time, I think. But then we go to the gym, and it'd be the other way around. But mate, it's just I guess it's a bit of a funny one. Like I wasn't even a qualified coach until COVID. It was something I never ever wanted to do for money, you know, and I've used this analogy many times before. It's like you think if you've been a fisherman your whole life, like you're pretty good at fishing, but you might not want to do it for a job and make money from it. But if you had to, you'd probably be pretty good at it. And anyway, like me and my missus went through a bit of stuff and, you know, she'd had 2 kids and she wanted a complete career change from the corporate sort of stuff she was doing. And I said, like, look, we're in a good position. Do what you want to do. Like something that's going to benefit you as an individual, because she'd always supported me. And something that's going to benefit our relationship, you know, that gives her that purpose, because I'd always had the purpose. So she started PTing, and I'm sure we'll get to it anyway, but I was kind of running another company with the help of other people and, you know, learning a lot about the running of a business. So I guess like the more that went on and the more she got into coaching, we're like, let's do our own thing. Like let's do something that's ours that we could do together. And mate, it just happened. We saw a real big gap in the market initially in the fitness industry. She was doing group training at a few different places. And, you know, in a lot of them places, the goal is kind of just lose weight, right? Or was, which like it shouldn't be the goal. You know, the training should be the goal and the weight loss is a byproduct. Like if you lose weight, great, as long as you're not losing muscle. But we just saw the gains that could be made in strength for people. You know, they're leaving the gym with something tangible. I couldn't get this off the floor and now I can, rather than I was 100 kilo and now I'm 97. So, yeah, there was very few products like the gym that we brought. And, yeah, when we brought it to Newcastle, it was nothing like this.
So you were the first in the market, essentially.
Correct, yeah, of this different methodology of training. And there's other places now which are similar. I don't think any are in our league. I like to refer to what we do as tier 1 group training.
There's also, it seems that there's a community behind it as well. You know, like everyone comes here, they're all friends. They all grab coffee after with each other. So it seems like a nice community driven behind it as well.
Mate, there is. And I think in small business, you get kicked in the guts often, right? Like it's just the way it is. Anyone that's owned one or ran one sees that. But for us, them same things still happen, but our members pick us up, man. Like I've had a pretty rough 6 months with the passing of my best friend. And we've had members dropping off trays of lasagna. You know, people that we wouldn't even think of as close friends, you know, like friends, friendly, you know, delivering us flowers and all this different, mate. People can't do enough for you. And they're our clients, you know, like they're not friends, they're clients, and doing that sort of stuff for us, we go, man, it's all worth it, eh?
Yeah, it makes you have a bit of faith in society, doesn't it, when people do stuff like that?
Man, it does. It shocks you. And yeah, I'm not one to get a tear to the eye often, but there's been a lot of times this year that's happened just through people doing real selfless stuff for me. And I don't like people doing things for me. I like to do it myself, and I don't like to ask for help or stuff like that. But mate, this year's been a real eye opener for us in terms of that. Like, and we go, look, it's not all about the money in things like this. It's definitely not the reason you get into group training or the fitness industry. You've got to really enjoy what you do, and we do. We love it, and it's something we can do together. But mate, back to your question. That's how we got into it. My wife just started PTing later in life, got in the best shape of her life after having 2 kids. And it was time for her to be. And when you say I'm a gym owner, she actually owns a gym, so she's a majority shareholder in it. So I'm just. I'm just the loud voice, mate.
You're just
around.
The vacuum boy.
That's it. I'm just a bloke with RSI from vacuuming the gym floor, but. And that we just fell into it. We signed a franchise agreement and off we went.
Yep, good stuff. When did you sign that franchise? So how long has the gym been going for?
Okay, so we would be going on our 3rd year in October.
No,
right. So it would have been opened sooner, but COVID, mate. COVID hurt us big time.
Hurt a lot of small business.
Yeah, so
all of small business.
We signed our initial contract, and then just after we had the first lockdown, so we had lockdown 1, and then we had that second big lockdown. We opened the day we could when everyone else could go back to normal. But, you know, there was about 10 weeks there where, you know, we were fitting the joint out, and Amy and I, you know, had exemptions to come in here and paint and do whatever we could. But everyone was locked up at home, mate. And they were having trades travel back and forth from Sydney, just bleeding us dry.
Yeah.
And it's just the way things were. It was no one's fault. They were just, you know, we were on lease, so we're paying rent.
Yeah,
and we weren't trading. And
it was the reaction at the time, wasn't it?
So it was probably 6 months delayed our opening as a result of it.
And obviously that hurts. It hurts in the pocket.
Mate, it does, yeah. It probably cost us 50 grand
Yeah.
just on outs because we couldn't trade.
Yeah.
I still think if it would have went on another 4 weeks, we would have went under.
You
We
were
would have
done.
had to close the doors and we would have owed the bank 400-500 grand and had nothing to trade with.
Fuck.
So, mate, we fucking lucky. Like, I wasn't sleeping, wasn't eating,
Yeah. Well,
drinking every day, just...
Yeah. Well, look where you are now.
Mate, that's right. And look, when we actually launched, not many gyms that I've heard of launch in the green. So day one, we turned a profit when we opened the doors.
Yeah.
So we had that many members when we opened that it wasn't about paying the bills. We were actually making money the day we opened.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah, and it's so good to hear as well. I've spoken about this on my podcast with a lot of people that are coming out of a career in Ironmans or professional athletes, and people like yourself. They leave the army and they struggle to find purpose. But it sounds like you've found purpose in this gym. Would that be correct?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, definitely. But before the gym, I had a lot of purpose in an organisation that I was, again, fortunate, just a bit of luck, mate, and army friends that I fell into was Veteran Mentors.
Yeah, okay. So
before that.
What is that? Tell me about it. I want to know more.
So, yeah, I left the military and we'll get into that, but I was pretty busted up and had a few of my own issues going on. And
I've got a couple of questions here that will cover off those points. So let's keep going with the Veteran Mentors.
And got a call from a bloke that I was in Afghanistan with. I won't mention his name. And he'd started a youth mentoring company. He said, mate, do you want to come and work with the kids? And I went, dude, I hate kids. And he goes, but you got 2 of them. I went, oh, mine are all right, but and anyway, like, again, I had no purpose at this point, right? Like, you're the bloke that's going to the pub. Oh, what do you do with yourself? Oh, I used to be. Like, I'm not anything now. I used to be a soldier. I used to be a firer. I used to be all this shit. I'm nothing now. And anyway, off I went, mate, put my shoes on and went up to the Gold Coast to do my first program. And essentially what they do is they break down like a kapuka into 10 days.
Okay, so kapuka for my normal listeners, they don't know what that is. So kapuka is their
basic training.
Basic training. Every person that goes into the army has to go through kapuka for 3 months.
Yep.
So that's your initial welcome to the army training. Yep.
It's highly regimental, discipline heavy, fitness heavy.
They're trying to break you down into what they need you to be.
Yeah, that's right. So they look at the program and look, you get all different types of kids on there. You'll get kids with disabilities. Yep. You'll get behavioural kids.
Low self-esteem.
But you'll also get really high self-esteem and high achievers where, private school kids, captain of the footy team and mum and dad are like, nothing's ever challenged him. It's all easy.
Do you get many kids that have been in trouble with the law?
Yeah, plenty. Yeah, plenty of that too. And mate, it was a sick job. Like changed so many kids' lives, changed my life. And I think one of the best things for me out of it was I was able to give veterans, so we only hired veterans obviously because no one else would understand what to actually do to put people through the training I knew what it was like for me to get given that purpose again. And it wasn't about the money. Like when I first started there, I was getting $150 a day and you work an 18-hour day.
Yeah.
So it definitely wasn't about the money. But then you can go to the pub and have a beer and shake someone's hand. What do you do with yourself? Oh, I work with disadvantaged kids or I work with, juvenile offenders running these programs. And you now have an identity again that people respect. So for me, that was probably the biggest achievement was being able to do that for other people because I know what it meant to me. And I'll be forever thankful for them blokes because not only did they get me, to a really good point there, but they also gave me the tools and were happy for me to move on to do what I do now.
Yeah.
So that was my initial purpose because I didn't work for almost a year after I got out of the military. I was just busted up and I just got the phone call at the right time and my wife said, just do it. Like you're not someone to turn stuff down, just do it. Don't become this victim. And
for that year after that you left the military, were you just mentally drained?
Oh mate, it was just identity loss, dude. It really was. It was just I was really physically broken as well. I had a lot of serious injuries.
How long did you spend in the army, man?
I don't know, 8.5 years, something like that.
Long time.
I remember, yeah,
especially long time in. You spent 4 or 5 years as a grunt. Yeah,
Yeah, just over 5 as a grunt, and then a couple as a. But I was off work for a bit, dude. So I don't know. Yeah, it was just over 8 years, something like that.
People don't realise what that does to the body, especially younger bodies like ours. Like we were talking about before, maturing into men. I still had a lot of growing that I was doing in that stage, and when I was 18, 19, and I'm 75 or something kilos, and we're lugging around 35, 40 kilos. It does a lot of damage to knees, ankles, backs, hips, that sort of stuff, shoulders, everything, right?
Absolutely, mate, particularly too when the mentality, and yourself from the unit that we were in, is that it wasn't okay to be injured. So when you were broken, you taped it up and it was play on.
Yeah, you got frowned upon a lot if you were injured, and it was a man's game.
Not that I think that's even a bad thing. Like, I mean, there's a certain element of that needs to exist to be an effective fighting force, right? Like, you need dudes that are willing to tape it up and crack on.
Yeah.
And, whether you end up being the byproduct of that, but I wouldn't change anything, so whatever, man. Like, it is what it is, eh?
Yeah. I banged my shoulder up in the first couple of months of my deployment, and I was like, I'm not going home.
No,
I'm definitely not going home, so I'm just going to deal with it. And I got home, and a few weeks later, I had a shoulder recon on it, and my shoulder was just dust. Yeah, completely done. But I wasn't coming home.
No way.
Yeah, that thought didn't even cross my mind.
No, when you got blokes getting shot, and I mean, I cracked my kneecap in half in a gunfight as well, and it's fused over, not straight. So it forever gives me grief, but it was the same thing. I just taped the patella and walked, and after about 3 months, it stopped clicking and grinding. Yeah, but it gives me endless grief now. But you got blokes getting shot. What are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, geez, my knee's sore. Yeah, cool story, man. You want a couple of bloody Nurofen or?
Shut up.
So, I mean, that is the mentality, and it leaves you with a lot of long-term injuries, man, which I suffer with now. But it's all good.
It's part of the game, I think. And
if you stop moving, I mean, as you know, I've been pretty crook this week. Mate, my injuries have flared up as ever because it's been laying around all week crook. You got to keep moving. Really, I think what functional training in this gym's done for me is kept the body moving in a healthy way.
Yeah, really funny you say that. I've had a calf injury for the last 3 weeks, and I average 50, 60K a week running. I've stopped running, and my knees and lower back have actually gotten worse. It's just this deloading process that's happening at the moment, and while my calf is healing, the rest of my body feels like it's stopping. Yeah. So for me, the continuous running and movement actually really good for me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think you always need to be getting some sort of volume in. It's just obviously can't be excessive if you're carrying a bit of an injury.
Now, look, man, I'm going to jump onto a couple of questions for you. I've got, because you're such a special guest, a military podcast, I've got 2 questions from the previous 2 podcast guests.
Oh, beautiful. All right.
So the first question, a good friend of mine, Tom Jonas, he was a former captain of Port Adelaide Football Club in the AFL for the last 4 or 5 years. Retired last year, and he's doing a few things this year. But his question for you is, and it's a very, very good question, did you struggle transitioning back into normal life in Australia after your tour to Afghanistan, and did that tour change you?
That's yes. The answer is definitely yes. I'm just thinking how I phrase the rest of it.
Yeah.
Mate, I hope things have gotten better for veterans when they come back. But look, we had a pretty rough trip. We lost a few dudes. And it was just a shit fight, really, the whole fucking thing, to be honest with you. You're watching your back, you're watching your front, you're not sleeping. After our boys got killed, mate, we're only probably getting 3 hours a night because you get sent somewhere as a Section 8 blokes with maybe a JTAC or some sort of radio operator to hit comms for you. So, and if you stood at 50%, you're not getting any sleep, dude. Yeah. Like 3 hours on a night. So anyway, long and short, when we left country, and you got to do your psych screening, you go in there and do the circle thing.
Yeah.
And mate, I was so tired. I just wasn't thinking. I just filled it out honestly, like which you never do, right? Like in defense,
I didn't fill mine out honestly. I was just like, I just need to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Tick, 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 tick.
And I just filled it out honestly, and then I was like, fuck, I'm never going to get penalised for another course here, like or anything. Like if I want to put an application for special, like I don't know. And anyway, so I went through and crossed them all out, like, oh fuck, and then went back and wrote just what you did, right? No. Anyway, I got called back in. He said, what's going on here? I said, I just made some mistakes. And the head psych's like, they're not mistakes. Like, you've thought about them. It makes no sense to go to that column to, and I'm like, no, it's fine. Anyway, they let me go as if nothing happened. And yeah, you go back to Australia then. But that ended up serving me well down the track when I was having dramas, because I could see that it actually wrote down, you know, that I wasn't sleeping, that I was all these different type of things. That got scanned in my med file, you know, so they could see that when I left country, I wasn't doing real well anyway. But I just said, no, I'm fine. And anyway, I went home, and you get dumped at home then on leave, and we're up in Townsville, and you know, me and the missus were soon, I proposed to her shortly after. So we're trying to save a bit of money. So it was pretty expensive to fly home from Townsville. So
I proposed to my wife after Afghan as well.
Yeah, mate, it lets you know what's important here, doesn't it? Like, and mate, they do their time, you know, they like, I'd way rather be the dude carrying the rifle than the one at home worrying.
Yeah.
You know, at least you've got some sort of influence over the outcome. But yeah, mate, then you're at home for 3 months with, you know, 100 grand in the bank, just hitting the piss.
Yeah.
Just sort of just drinking, mate. Like, dudes go on leave, and you're just used to having, be like, mate, I drank out of a tap in the sink for like 6 months. Amy used to smack me on the hand.
Yeah.
And say, like, go get a cup.
Yeah.
You know, like just stuff like that, dude. So, yeah, and mate, going down the piss fighting all the time too, like getting locked up in town.
Do you think that was just getting frustration and anger out from the tour?
Yeah, dude, I don't know. Mate, I'd always had a chip. You know what it was like. I always had a chip on my shoulder. But so.
I know exactly what you're like.
But, yeah, mate, I think it definitely added to it. I think when you can be in one country one day, right, ready to pull the trigger and take a life, or getting shot at, and then you come back here and you're out in the piss and someone sort of knocks into you, you're like, I'm not scared to throw a punch, bro. We're getting shot at last week. Let's go, you know? So I think it makes you...
It's
you
crazy.
get a bit of a hair trigger.
Yeah, it's crazy how quick the week to, you know, balances can change. Just like you said, 1 week you can be in a war-torn country fighting. The next week you can be in an Australian bar drinking beer.
Yeah.
And it is like a 7-day difference.
Yeah.
It was, and you know, they, like when we got back, they were like, oh, you guys got to stay on base for X amount of days. We got back, drove straight to the Bottle-O, hit the piss for 48 hours straight, and we were out in the town, and none of us slept. We got it back in at like 3 a.m. on a Friday, went all the way through to a Sunday.
Yeah, I remember. I think the missus went out because I was still in country when you guys got back.
Yeah, we were the first to get back.
Yeah.
Because we were the first to leave. But yeah, when we just partied hard, way too hard for 48 hours.
100%. But mate, like getting back to the question anyway, I love to go on a bit of tangent, but yeah, mate, it absolutely changed me. But some for the better, some for the worse, I think. Like people often ask you, like, you know, I think it's a good question. Like, what's the one thing you learned out of the military, or what's the one thing you've taken away? And I think I know what I'm capable of. You know, which is pretty heavy, dude. Like, you know what you can do.
In terms of physical?
Yeah, in terms of mental.
Yeah.
You know, because as you know, in some of your endurance stuff, like, you know, when no one's getting fed and no one's getting watered and everyone's body's breaking down, like, are you going to stop?
You know where you can go.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing and you can tap into that, right?
Yeah.
You can use that in other parts of your life, whether it's a tough workout here or, I don't know, maybe you got an office job, mate, and you're fucking pushing paper all day. You're a bean counter. I don't know. How many beans can you count? Maybe you can count another 1,000, right?
Yeah. It's a very, very good point you bring up there about capabilities, not knowing what you're capable of, because I think I can push myself further than most other people that I know, apart from some of my military friends. I think they can push themselves to the same boundaries that I can, but there's other friends of mine that are non-military that I don't think it can push there because they've probably never been to those areas before. And then
for a long period of time, right?
Yeah.
Where you're in that zone for sometimes days.
And yeah, probably, you know, that's probably what drives me to run long distances, because there's something about that zone as well that I a little bit enjoy getting to that zone of just that exhaustion, and you know, you just got to keep pushing further, and it's just the mental game of getting there and then staying in that then finishing something off that there's some bit of enjoyment for me out of it. Obviously different to an Afghanistan one where there's not stuff happening, but it's in the middle of a race and I'm at exhaustion and I enjoy it.
100%. Yeah, I like that. It's good.
Now, like I said, you got a second question because you're special. Kendrick Lewis, who was previously on my podcast last week, we did it in
I listened
Sydney.
to that, yep.
Yeah, great guy. 2020 Nutrigrain Ironman champion. And his question for you, and we probably just spoke about this, but maybe we can elaborate more on it. What disciplines did you take from the military to your day-to-day life after, the military, obviously?
Yep. Well, I think, firstly, we touched on it before, right? Like our formative years were kind of spent in the military. So that's where you become who you're going to become. So all them Army core values. But I think initiative, dude, like initiative is a big one. If I see dirt on the floor in the gym, I'll get a vacuum and vacuum it up. If I see the toilet, one toilet roll left, like I'll get another. I think, there's always something that can be done, and that's just the way it is in the military. There's always something can be done. There's never nothing to do. But yeah, mate, all of them, like courage, initiative, teamwork, respect, all them throwaway lines, like the military are really good at reinforcing them. So,
agreed.
mate.
Yep, cool. Okay, now I've got some more questions for you. We'll just roll through this and
sure.
that's going to be good fun. So, growing up as a young lad, did a young Ryan Fox always want to join the military?
Probably. Yeah, probably. Like I was always into action movies and that sort of stuff, mate. And we had a good close family friend who, again, I won't mention his name, but he ended up winning an MG on a couple of trips before mine. And he was Choco to begin with. And our mums were really close friends, and I went to school with his sisters, and we went to his place and he used to get all his stuff out, like, the old sausage pack?
Nah.
Like they had that back then. Anyway, the old long pack with, I had all his stuff out and I'd have a look through, how good's this? And I got in around the time he'd already been to Timor. And then, he'd already been to Timor. And I think he was force readying when I went enlisted.
Yeah, okay.
So it was kind of like, that's sick.
Yeah.
So he kind of paved that pathway for me, I guess. And I used to ask him for some advice and stuff. And
so you had a bit of a role model that you were looking up to,
yeah,
essentially?
for sure, dude. And he was probably 5 years older than me.
Yep.
As well. So yeah, that definitely played a role in it. But I was always interested in, guns and army dudes and movies and stuff like that. Ironically, you get there and it's not like that. I have a bit of a joke, like when you go into recruiting, you see the dude with the shemagh and the beard and all the stuff, and you're like, man, I want to be that dude. And then when you are that dude, you realise that dude hasn't showered in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that dude anymore.
There's a really good saying, you got to be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, that's it, mate. That's it. It looks good on a placard, good marketing for defence, but...
they're just photos, right? They're and they're hopes and dreams.
That's it. Yeah, that's it, dude.
So, because I had a very similar story, right? I had my cousin that I looked up to who was in a 2 commando unit.
Yeah, of course.
He died in 2010, was KIA over in Afghan, and then our trip was 18 months later.
And it's hard to think, because, that was around the time I would have got to the unit.
Yeah.
It's hard to think that there was only 2 years between you were there, your cousin was there.
Yeah.
Like it seems like a lot longer in between, right?
Yeah.
Like 2 years is not long.
Nah, I think it worked out to be, so he died in June, and then the following, about 20 months later, 20 months in April, we were in country.
That's insane, eh?
Yeah, I had, because I knew some of his friends that were there on tour, so on that night of the anniversary, his 2-year anniversary, we went over and had a few beers with him. Good to see him and stuff like that, good to crack a beer and remember what he did and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that was a big point of me joining the army. I had a figure like that I looked up to. He was in 2 commando, had done multiple trips, and he was. He used to take. He really took me under his wing when I was in about year 11, and because we were both into sport growing up, and we shared fitness, and we shared our thoughts a lot to each other, and talking that on the phone. And then I hit him up about joining the army, and he thought it was a good idea, and this is what you need to do and stuff like that. And yeah, obviously it was a blow. I was a couple of years into the army, lost him, and then, but also at the same time, then it was my turn to go. I was I was happy.
How did your family feel? Like, knowing that your cousin had.
Yeah, I look.
Was that? Sorry, is that your mum's
dad's sister's son?
Okay.
Yep. So
I guess how did your old man feel?
Yeah, to be honest, I never really asked him. I was like, I never really came. Obviously, I seen him at the funeral, and I didn't see my parents so much because they were back in Adelaide.
Yep.
But I never really asked them how they felt about me going to Afghanistan. I just, I was too busy being young, dumb, and just, wanting to conquer the world. And it was a weird time. I've never asked them. I probably should ask them.
It made it just be interesting.
Yeah. Look, my mum listens to my podcast.
Because I have kids, my sister has kids and stuff like that. Look, I find stuff like that interesting now for perspective.
Yeah. Well, I could almost guarantee, because my mum listens to these podcasts, she'll probably bring it up. So then
there you go.
She can say, and I can give you some feedback on it. But yeah, from a personal point of view, I never asked them, but I was just young. I wanted to conquer the world, and it was my turn now. Do you know what I mean? And that's the way I felt about it. Life in the army, bro. Did you enjoy it? Did it suit you?
Yeah. Oh, it suited me. Yeah, it suited me to a teammate. It's what I needed. I'm always been a routine type of guy. I'm even like that now. Doesn't matter what living situation I get put in, I just find a routine straight away.
Yep.
Find a way to train, get clean, eat, look after my kit.
Yep.
It's how I live even still.
Yeah.
And doing the veteran mentors gig, like we used to go away to run the camps, it'd just be like, although we would wear uniforms, so that was a bit similar. I'd lay all my stuff out just like I did when I was in, and yeah, mate, for sure. No, it suited me to a T, and you know what it was like back in the Bourne, living on barracks. It was sick, dude. Like, they were the best couple of years in Sydney in my life. Like, they were sick, man.
They were fun. We used to have our walking clubs.
Mate, we'd have walk around bitching like nanas.
Dragging people's name through the dirt.
Walking, and some of you, you always go to walking club, mate, because if not, your name's going to get dragged through the mud for an hour.
Yeah, geez, that was fun. They were good days, and it was,
and all it was about, mate, was just being in wicked shape, being fit, strong. Like, if you didn't have a six pack, you were getting called fat.
Yeah.
You
would get bullied into having one.
Yeah. Dudes, you got grown men starving themselves to get down. It was, mate, they were good time. We go on the sunbed and all that sort of stuff, mate. It was great.
They were fun. But, we used to work hard, but we used to play pretty hard as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And look, it was a tough environment, mate, too. Like, I remember rocking up to the battalion just being, and I was a dude that could always handle myself. I never back down from a fight or anything like that. Nor would I have then, but, rocking up to the unit, just being genuinely intimidated by people. Like, this is not what I expected a workplace to be like. This is like prison, mate. That's what it was like.
And it was shocking. You really had to get along. Otherwise, you were just, you were this outside skirt guy that just got bullied.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
It brutal, but like, fuck, you just got to get along because...
Yeah, but it made like, again, it's not the right thing to do, but it made good soldiers.
Yeah,
it really did.
Yeah, well, the results spoke for themselves at the end of the day. What about before going to Afghanistan? Were you nervous? What was your mental state like?
No, I wasn't nervous at all, I wasn't nervous at all, mate. I was super keen. I was initially panelled on the trip to go because I was only a new dude, man. You got to remember, like, I'd been around as long as you had been.
Yeah.
So, mate, I had to work my way there, and I was going in every weekend with again, I won't mention his name. He's still serving, but an older lad, and we were training on the weekends, mate. We're doing 3.2s, rifle webbing boots, SF swim test.
Was that to, just show people that you were willing to work?
Mate, just to get unbelievably fit.
And try to get on the trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which didn't take long.
Yeah.
Didn't take long at all.
Yeah. Now, look, these are a couple of bit of heavier questions, so if there's any point you want to stop it all, just let me know.
No, you're good. Go for it.
But, and you mentioned before, we lost 3 dudes in one night over there. Dealing with loss, after they got killed, going out, after the fact of such a event that was so severe and so absolute, going out after that, what was your mental state like? And were you scared going out after that?
Never scared. Never scared. I can answer that one quickly. Mate, I was quite the opposite, Like, I remember some dudes were scared, particularly I think those that got arrested. I think you and I have talked about it before that like you need to get dudes back out in the fight, like when shit goes wrong.
Yeah, we're going to touch on this. Yep.
Yeah, but definitely not scared, mate. I was more like, let's go do some killing.
I read
Hopefully the government just cut us loose, because the problem was, as you know, they'd put us in movement corridors where we could only go so far here to try and protect us. We're like, we don't want protecting, man. They just took 3 of our boys. Let's go killing.
Now, going back on your point before, I read a couple studies on this recently about the importance of getting soldiers back out after such a traumatic event, because you can keep blokes in and they all of a sudden, you know, their minds start playing tricks on them. They don't want to go out, and then all of a sudden it spreads, and a lot of people, you might have a whole platoon that doesn't want to go out after that. But there's still a job that has to be done, right? Because that's what you're there for. You're there to do a job and continuously do it well. So, you know, the importance of a soldier's mental state in getting them back out and getting them working as soon as possible, right? After, obviously, you have ramp ceremonies and stuff like that. But getting them back out as soon as possible is crucial to the success of the operation from an overall perspective, right? Getting them guys back out and moving.
I also think for their own mental health, mate, because on ops, what do you have to do other than sit around?
Yeah, so you need to, and the study said you need to get them back out, you need to get them moving. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, again, it's a hard one. Like, blokes are going, dude, like, we've just been through this bullshit. Like, fuck, we want to spell. But, yeah, I think you just sit around pondering, man. You feel helpless is a shocking way to feel. Hopeless or helpless, like there's nothing you can do. But at least if you're out hunting, which is what we were doing, trying to find the dude that killed our boys. Yeah. You feel like you're trying to do something.
Yeah.
So yeah, mate, it was definitely not scared or anything. It was quite the opposite. I was never trying to avoid any risk when I was over there. I mean, I wasn't looking at the ground going, geez, that's a fucking wire. I might just trot on that and see if it's safe ground.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was never one to, like, I remember when we first got in country and they needed an extra dude to go on a job when we're doing nursery patrols. Like, yeah, I'll go on it. And I'm like, fuck it, man. What's one more patrol? You know, we found an IED 250 metres down the road straight away.
Yeah.
But I was never trying to get out of work, because I just felt like as well, it could work the opposite. Like, it only takes one bad thing. Like, what if you're trying to avoid things? Maybe you go on one job the whole time you're there. That could be the job where you get blown up.
Yeah.
Or you could go on 250 jobs.
Yeah. So there's a really good.
I don't think.
There's a really good comparison.
Crossover.
Well, it shouldn't be a comparison comparing anything from military to football, but it is in the context of, my father used to tell me all the time. Right, he used to go, the contest that you don't go for and you don't go 100% at, that's the contest you're going to get injured in.
That's a good point.
So I think the same thing over there. You just got to not change anything, and you got to not approach it from a point of view of, I'm going to take a soft approach to this and try and tread around. You obviously got to make sure that you work through them moments going at a pace which is obviously good enough for the team and the standards good enough, but working through that and not treading lightly, because if you tread lightly, that's where mistakes might happen.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Completely. Yeah, no, I really do agree with that. And I think that's what I talk about with the risk, is if I reckon you can be too overcautious with things. We sort of trotting around, you look at everything on the ground, like doing your head in. It's like, we know not to walk on footpads, so fucking don't. Yeah. That's enough about the footpads now, right? Like, some people just worry too much about it, I think, and it just fucks them down the track. Like, yeah. But no, mate, no, I was happy to go on jobs. Like, we had a bit of a slower period from memory then anyway after that, just because of what had happened, and they weren't sure if we were going to continue to work with Afghans at all then, because, I mean, that had only happened on, not MTF4, that was before us. So I just MTF3, we, like, at the base we were at in Sorkbed, we had to be contained in a base within inside a base, because I think it was 2 hours trip. They got shot up there as well by the Afghans. Yeah. So every time you'd go jump behind the 58 to do picket to let people in and out of our compound, you're looking over at the parade ground where some of our boys got brassed up, which was only, 15 months before we were there.
Yeah.
So after this, I think the government would be pretty close to just calling it off altogether and going, yeah, like we're still going to do operations, but not with them.
Yeah. So I just want to give a bit of context for listeners, right? Because a lot of people don't understand, to the depth that you're talking in. So when these incidents happened, it was actually Afghan soldiers that we were training were shooting up our guys, which is very, very hard to combat against, right? Because we're there to help them. And these guys ended up turning their weapons on us and then shooting at Australian soldiers. So I just wanted to put a bit of context on that so people can understand the conversation.
Yeah, for sure. And hopefully that can make them understand of how much of a complex mission we had. You know, when you have to train people, but you also have to have someone with a machine gun with sights trained on them while you're training them.
You're looking both ways.
I mean, it was a real surreal moment when we left. We had to go out onto that parade ground that I'm talking about where the two of our boys got shot up. And we were dressed in combat helmets, Kevlar armour, weapons at instant, so safety catch off, magazines on, with two gun cars with 58s pointed at the parade ground to hose them down if anything happened. And I'm like, what are we fucking doing here?
Yeah.
Like, this is just so pointless.
Yeah.
That picture just summed up what our trip was like.
You're in an asshole corner of the world.
And mate, again, like the stress of it, like you go to these patrol bases and then you go there with 8 blokes, but they have to have 24 blokes to make sure the ratios are right. So you're heavily outnumbered. And then you stood to it like 50%.
Yeah.
So that means half of you are asleep while half of you are awake. So, for your listeners, if that's 8 blokes, then that means 4 can sleep while 4 are awake manning the guns. And then that might occur for 2 hours and you swap. So you're getting no sleep. Like that, man, I don't think my sleep's ever been the same after it. And not just Afghanistan. I mean, the military in general fucks your sleep around.
Yeah. I went from but I was a kid before I joined, right? I went from sleeping heaps to sleeping not much. And I'm generally, I'm generally a really early riser now. And, the only time I don't rise early if I have beers the night before, which I've obviously cut out recently, but I'm, generally a 5 a.m. guy up with the dogs. And I have slept well. I've probably really, really gained momentum in my sleeping after I cut drinking out and stuff like that. But yeah, whenever
if you're up that early, you may as well just get yourself a gym.
Yeah. I'm generally, I've got this podcast now to
something to keep you busy.
Yeah, keep me very busy, very busy. And I just want to put a bit of context as well. That night that we lost the 3 boys. I remember, right, I was sitting there at a base in TK, which is the main base, and we got woken up and we were put on 2 minutes notice to move, and they've said this has happened, there's 3 KAs, and I'm like, okay, not sure who's there, but that sucks. Then they came back with the company, Bravo company, and I'm like, fuck, good mate, Foxy's there. And instantly I started thinking in my head, I'm like, starts playing tricks here, right? And I'm like, I hope it's not Foxy. I hope it's not this guy. I hope it's not this guy. And I just sat there and I'm like, shit, I hope it's not any of them. And then 5 minutes later, they came back with the names. And it was like such an unfortunate incident. It was like a big relief was left over my shoulders that it wasn't you.
Yeah, dude. But then you feel bad. It was someone.
It was someone. You know what I mean? But like,
I'm hearing you, dude.
And it just hit me, and I'm like, instantly there was a bit of relief, and then after that it was like, oh fuck, there's 3 guys that have, 2 of them were dads, they were brothers, they were sons, they were cousins, fathers.
Yeah, kids, mate. Really, when you look back now, we're nearly 35. They were kids, you know what I mean? And yeah, mate, it's sad to think of all the things that I've got to experience in my life now, when their journey stopped bloody 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
Yeah. I think, how old was Bodie? Like 22 or something?
21. I think Marto was the youngest. He was 21.
Yeah.
But mate, no, I remember when it went off to we were only about, we were doing a valley clearance, and we were initially meant to go to that base, my section. I think the initial thinking was and me excluded, but there was a lot of senior guys in our section, 5-year diggers that were sort of held back from promotion to go on to the trip. So I think they sort of thought, well, you're more experienced guys, like no one had been there before. maybe we'll send you blokes. And so we were sort of kidding up for it, not knowing what to expect up there. And then it got changed sort of the last minute for whatever reason, and we were going back to patrol base Kudos, which was only about a kilometre down the green belt away. So, mate, it very well could have been me there.
Yeah.
But fuck, it doesn't matter who was there. It's shit either way. But, you know, we were at Kudos. I remember it happened. We were at 10 o'clock at night, I guess, and fucking boiling there. So I had nothing on but a pair of underpants and just a wet shamag laying over me, which for the listener, it's like just a piece of cloth that they wear to wrap around their heads. And one of the lads came running out of the CP and grabbed me on the chest and goes, "Get your gun and get on your guts." And I'm like, fuck, righto. So I grabbed my gun and ran out and just dove on the gravel and just got behind my gun. And he goes, "Get it ready to use it." And I'm like, fuck, righto, what's going on? He's like, "There might be an attack here."
Yeah.
So I'm facing up at their accommodation, and he said, "Drop anyone that doesn't stop."
Yep.
You know, anyone who comes walking down here, drop them. He said, "Don't let them near us if they've got a weapon." I'm like, fuck, this is like a lot of responsibility at this point, considering that's a company there. You know, so they've got about 120 blokes, and we've got
12.
Yeah, we had a little bit more there because there's a bit of rank and
a bit of support.
Yeah. Random. I don't even know what their jobs were, mate, but they were just dudes with rifles kicking around. I don't know, but they were there. They weren't carrying heavy shit. I know that.
Yeah.
Maybe there was 20 of us and about 120 there. I'm like, fuck, like, if I drop someone here, it's on. Like,
and we don't have the numbers.
Anyway, before you know it, like, I could hear everything coming over the radio, and you know, it's all mic numbers. You don't know who it actually was, so we didn't find out for quite some time, mate, because you know, Frenchie was up there, who's a close mate of mine still. I was worried it was him. You know, nearly heaps of mates up there, dude. Fucking.
Yeah, that was the other one that I was thinking through my head because, you know, he first came to our company.
Yeah, so
I think he joined pretty much close to you.
I think he would have. So, yeah, mate, and then we just, after that, we didn't sleep for a couple of nights looking for him. And
yeah, that was one of the craziest periods of my life. You know, and it's probably something that, you know, will probably stick with me forever, you know, probably to the day we die.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's, you know, like at the same time, it's you can look at it a few different ways, and you know, these are things that you got to learn from in life, and you know, also like in a real weird way, it's just you also got to cherish that, you know, you're here and you know,
mate, it's not something to feel guilty for that you're here, you know, and I think some dudes struggle with that. Yeah, it's definitely not something to feel guilty for. Like, fucking in an ideal world, no one dies at war. It's just not the way it is.
Yeah, it's like telling a footballer not to go out and get injured playing footy, right?
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Doesn't matter what rules you put in place.
Yeah, and it's just, I think the part that rattles us so much about what happened on our trip, mate, to our three lads is just the cowardly nature that it was done. You know, is that deserve better than that?
Yeah. But yeah, let's you know, let's jump on to another few questions, mate. I want to find out the sort of mentality as well, you know, and your reaction to the first time you were shot at. Can you tell me, you know, what sort of state of mind you're in, what your reaction was it to? Because there's a lot of different ones out there. A lot of people react differently, right? How did you react?
Fight, you know, fight or flight, fight for sure. Yeah. Yep.
Do you think,
mate, that's my response, fucking no matter what, dude.
I was just about to say that. Has that been you since you've been a kid?
Yeah, mate. Like, my missus will scare me, right? And this is like pre-Afghan. She'll scare me in the laundry, and I actually can square up.
Yeah.
Instinctual. And then I put my hands up. Oh, no, sorry. Like, but you know, when I get startled, like I go to throw hands. Like,
yeah.
It's always, and I think maybe it's definitely something that can be trained into people. I think.
Was there a part where you froze up at all, or you know, was your initial reaction? Were you so full of adrenaline? Were you not understanding what's happening around you?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure, mate. Like, it's like I guess it's like if you get in a bit of a scrap in the street or bloody playing footy or whatever, you get that adrenaline dump comes over you, right? I remember we're just sitting on a position, we're doing a little satellite patrol, you know, to scare off any people who are going to pull wires on a vehicle patrol. I'm just sat on this little mound, which, you know, hindsight, a great thing in combat. You look at it and you're like, that is the fucking worst spot to see it in the world. But, mate, they're not silly, the enemy. Like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you know, running out of water. They know we've been out since first light. So we plonk ourselves down, middle of the desert, no fucking hard cover anywhere, no concealment, and me just light up a smoke. You know, just sitting there having a smoke, and I hear a couple of cracks come in, and I look forward and I see my number 2. So he was my partner that would help me with the gun, and he was a medic, etc., etc. I can see a little dust storm around him, and I can just sort of hear these cracks because they weren't coming over my head; they were going over his, and then jamming the wall behind him. And then I've got a cigarette in my mouth, and then I hear a couple of cracks come over our head, like a machine gun burst clearly.
Yeah.
And then the next ones hit in front of me on the ground, which was me and my 2IC sitting next to me, and he's got up to move, and the next burst that came in landed so close, the dirt off the ground hit me in the face, and I actually thought I'd been shot in the face. The gravel had hit me, and again, lucky for the eyewear, you know, probably might have taken my eye out, I don't know. And I was like, I just remember it going through my head. A couple of things went through my head. It was get up or die. Like that was just, and then I thought about my missus, funnily enough. Which is weird. And I told her about that when I got back. Like, and that's not just some love story. Shit, it actually happened, dude. Which is just, spin out.
Incredible what comes here in those moments, isn't it?
And you have no control over it.
It's
none of it's conscious. Well, anything that occurs in them moments is not conscious.
It's your body reacting, right? And it's like pushing out, bits of information to you, to your brain, and it's going, this might be it. Here's your last bit of...
Your life flashed before your eyes type of thing, right? Anyway, so I've just jumped up, started moving to hard cover, which was about 50 metres to my right, and started moving and just... I used to have a collapsible mag on the bottom side of the gun, and then I'd have just a 50-round belt hanging off. And the 50-round belt was, if we got into contact, I'd squeeze it straight out just to get some initiative back and then conduct a reload drill. Anyway, so I squeezed that 50 out as I was moving to cover and then went into my reload drill. But the problem was... my fucking pincer grip didn't work. I had no feeling in my fingers, so I couldn't undo the feed tray of my machine gun to put the belt on. And I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, you're a fucking pussy. Like, what's it? Like, my legs were all shaky, bro. Like, it was scary, dude. It was scary. Like, obviously it was scary, but it was scary that I couldn't function under them conditions. And I think...
adrenaline?
Yeah, it was just a massive adrenaline dump. And I think... you know, the army can't replicate them conditions in training, right?
Not at all. Not at all.
What I felt is, and anyway, the gunfight went on. We ended up getting them cleared out. The gun cars just, I mean, standard Aussies, mate. We had some good drivers. They're at a complete vulnerable point where there's probably an IED there, and the clearance was taking too long, and they had 50 cals on the roof, and they went, get out of the fucking way. Just drove through. They got the gun cars up on the top of the hill and started wailing on them. Just willing to sacrifice. Willing to literally get blown up, knowing it was a 50-50 chance. Like, you know, I was explosives was one of my specialties. There's a pioneer for those that know, listeners that know. But I would have absolutely put a device there. That was the only way to get a heavy vehicle through, and they just went, fuck it, we're going through. Luckily there wasn't, but they were prepared to get blown up to come and help us. But back to the way I felt was... you know, the more times something like that occurred throughout the trip, the easier it got. And before you know it, everything works.
Became routine.
Yeah, well, not so much routine because it wasn't that frequent.
Well, but became a routine response.
Yeah, like the adrenaline was always present, obviously. Like, I mean, but anytime you get into a dangerous situation, you could function. You could function well. And I think when you get to that point, then you sort of go, well, how does that get undone then when you go back, right? It's not normal to function completely fine in a situation where someone's trying to take your life, right? So how do you undo that when you get back? And I don't think anyone's figured that out yet. So you and me, we could be the man. Figure that out.
Definitely. Well, I hope this podcast does.
Yeah.
But, you know, talking about that mentality, I've had on here some very, very high level achieving athletes, Brownlow medalists, you know, captains of footy teams, world champion Ironmans and stuff like that. They all seem to have something in common, right? And I still haven't put my finger on it, but having conversations with people like you help me put it on a little bit more, right? I think there's a bit in the brain that people like yourself, people like higher level performing athletes, I think they can, and I am no brain expert. I done no research on this. I'm just taking in information.
Yeah, you're gathering clinical notes.
From talking to people, and I think there is a bit of the brain that certain people can access and certain people can't access, and it separates the high achievers from the normal people. What do you think about that?
Could be a fair statement, bro. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
If anyone's
I
out there,
also do think that I don't think I'm special in any way or anything like that for someone that can pick up a rifle and function in combat. I think no one knows until they get there, and I think that everyday people can do fucking extraordinary things.
They just need to be put
with
in a situation.
gun put to their head.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
and I'll say that sometimes to people when they're doing attempting a PB. I say, if I put a gun to your head right now, could you get that bar off the floor? And they're like, probably. I'm like, well, there's your gun. Yeah. Let's go.
Well, recent event that just happened, the Bondi stabbings, right? That French dude that came down with the escalator, with the chair in his hand, ready to fight the dude with the knife.
Yeah.
Probably never been in that situation before, but was fucking ready to go.
Just an everyday dude.
Right, and just ready to sacrifice himself for others.
Yep.
So people out there, it's just people aren't put in that situation.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm assuming...
Some idiots like us may volunteer for it.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, look, mate, I've got a couple more questions for you, and then we're going to wrap this thing up.
Yeah, mate, right? Sounds good. Sounds good.
Now, one question that I've been asking, excuse me, one question that I've been asking my recent guests, and I fucking love this question.
Yep.
Because, there's a lot of deep thinking involved in it. And there's also a process of going back to a younger self and picturing yourself there. So what's one bit of advice you would give to 18-year-old Ryan Fox about life? Tough one, isn't it?
Matt, it is a tough one. And I think the reason it's a tough one, which adds context to the answer, is that everything that goes wrong is kind of the reason that things go right. So... by trying to give advice to undo some of the wrongdoings, you might not end up where you do now. If that makes sense. Like, I don't know, the dumb shit you kind of do when you're younger is important.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that you would tell yourself, I'm trying to context
not make
this
more
as well.
mistakes or anything like that. Look, if I could, just to simplify your answer.
Yeah, do that.
If I could give myself one bit of advice, it'd be, get rid of the chip on your shoulder.
Yeah.
Because through the majority of my, teenage life, even young adolescent life in the army, mate, I just had a chip on my shoulder.
Yeah.
You don't need to prove to people that you're tough.
Was that through, because you were you're a pretty high performing rugby player. You probably get angry at saying me for rugby, but I come from the AFL world, so it's fucking rugby. Did you have that chip on your shoulder all through them high performing years as a rugby player when you're junior years?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where do you think that came from?
Mate, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's just, Mum always used to say that, geez, he's got the fire in his belly, that one.
Yeah.
I don't know, mate. I just always had a chip on my shoulder, but it'd be one bit of advice I'd give myself otherwise. And it probably did affect rugby as well. We'll call it rugby, but it's footy here for
it's fucking rugby,
people
bro.
in New South Wales. But
fucking rugby.
But yeah, just you get a bad name for yourself, mate. If you're a bit of an upstart, people think, oh, he's a fucking wanker.
Yeah, that's a very, very good bit of advice.
And you even see it like in the NRL. You've got dudes like Latrell Mitchell. Now that was kind of him, right? Bit of a chip on his shoulder, a great young player, and it probably did hurt him representatively when he's in my opinion one of the best players in the game.
Yeah,
but he's kind of got a bit of a stigma around his name.
Yeah,
and I'm not trying to put myself in that category, by the way, but definitely had a chip on my shoulder, mate. And if I could change one thing, that'd probably be it. But not the rest of it, mate. I made plenty of fuck ups as a young dude, and I think I like to think I've learned from most of them lessons. Yeah,
we could do a podcast. I've said this before on previous podcasts. We could do a whole podcast on failure and the importance of learning from failures. And the importance of becoming better from failures. Because you don't learn anything unless you fail, right? That's one of the fucking golden rules in life.
Yeah. Or unless you make mistakes, right? It's not necessarily failing, just fucking up, making a mistake.
You have to fuck up big sometimes as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yep. I mean, Bitcoin, mate, I lost what, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 on that.
Yeah.
That hurt.
Yeah. What if you're held?
You still on it, are you?
Yeah. Fucking hope I am.
I made some Ponzi scheme I got sucked into, but again, never again, never again, and that's an example of a lesson learned.
Lessons in life. Lessons in life. Now, to make my episodes link well together, obviously the two previous guests for you had a question, right? So, without giving away too much, I approached this guy at the gym a couple of weeks ago, and he has one arm. Lost it from a routine surgery, tearing a bicep tendon. Yeah, and then he went in and woke up 17 days later with one arm.
Oh, wow. Infection or
we're going to dive into that in the next episode.
Sure. I'll have to listen then, mate, because I want to know already.
You will. And this dude's a savage at the gym, bro. Fucking trains harder than anyone there. And like, I generally think that I train harder than most people at the gym, but this guy has me. And he's doing it with one arm, right? So he's also training up to be in the Paralympics as a cyclist. So incredible story, and I cannot wait to have him on next week. So what's your question for him, bro?
Yeah, right. There's a bit of a left field one, but and sort of relating back to my own service is why I asked the question. So I was always not concerned, but it was always, I guess, a fear of mine that if I was to lose, one of my legs or one of my arms to an IED or something of that nature overseas, as to how that would affect my intimate relationships with, I had a partner at the time, but, whether your partner would want to leave you or whether I'd struggle to get other birds if that didn't work out or whatever, I guess, with the greatest respect, has it affected him in that way? Or how has it affected his intimate relationships if he's currently in a relationship?
Relationship status. So how
more so with a partner, with like a female, whether he's got one or whether he's single, like dating or anything like that. I guess it's interesting to see how people react to you when you have a visible disability. So mate, that's something I'd be interested to hear. I'm not sure if the listener would, but it'd be something I'd be interested to hear.
Well, I'm very interested.
There you go.
That wasn't on my list of things to ask him.
Perfect.
So mate, thank you very much. But look, Ryan Fox, impressive resume. Privileged to call you a good friend. And,
Same here, mate. Same here.
Mate, thanks for coming on Two Worlds Collide podcast. I appreciate it so much, and let's not wait a decade.
Yeah, sounds good, mate. Thanks, Sam.
Good on you, mate. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And for more information, head over to our Instagram at Two Worlds Collide Podcast. Take care.